Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened one. Today, I would like to speak on the perfection of equanimity. And my talk will start with a Buddha's quote in his own language. Puttassa lokadammehi chittang yassana kampati asokang virajang kemang etang mangalamuttamang. The English meaning: it is a blessing to cultivate an unshaken mind by changing worldly conditions, sorrowless, passionless, and secure. I actually Googled this word, and the New Oxford American Dictionary gives this meaning. Equanimity means mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. Agree? Equanimity. And I also turned into Pali dictionary, the Buddha's Pali word, into English translations. And in that dictionary, I found the meaning where it says, equanimity means looking on, 0 point between joy and sorrow. Disinterestedness, neutral feeling, sometimes equivalent to feeling which is neither pain nor pleasure. So it's a little different definition than the one we are familiar with. So here you heard mental calmness, which we are trying to develop with the practice of meditation. In a way, our goal is to have equanimity in life. Right? We all seek mental peace, don't we? But it does not mean indifference. Sometimes this word equanimity has been translated as, in Buddha's word, equanimity is as said upekha, and people have translated this as indifference, and which is not the right translation. A bhikkhu bodhi, a well-known scholarly monk, says the translation of indifference has brought misunderstanding among the Western people that Buddhists are supposed to be detached and unconcerned with others, with other beings. What this really means is not to be ruled by passions, desires, likes, and dislikes. Do you want me to read that line again? So, it means not to be ruled out by passions, desires, likes, and dislikes. He continues, equanimity is evenness of mind, unshakable freedom of the mind, a state of inner equipoise that cannot be upset by gain or loss, honor or dishonor, praise or blame, pleasure and pain. Upekkha, equanimity, is freedom from all points of self-reference. It is indifference only to the demands of the ego self, with its craving for pleasure and position, not to the well-being of one's fellow human beings. So it gives that we are developing this mind to state that we are not really affected by what's going on around, but in the surrounding, and yet we are still concerned about fellow human beings because we are social beings. We depend on each other. Buddha is an enlightened being. If his enlightenment is compared to indifference, he would not share his wisdom if he is not concerned about fellow human beings. After his awakening, he spent his whole life, 45 years of enlightenment, 45 years of being an enlightened person. He served to the world. He shared his wisdom, directed fellow human beings towards awakening, towards liberation. So his mind was in the state of equanimity, and yet he was very much concerned for the well-beings of human beings. Equanimity gets strengthened when we have wisdom. Wisdom strengthens the equanimity. How do we cultivate equanimity? First of all, how do we cultivate this? How do we develop the state of tranquility in the mind? Meditation. So everything comes into the practice. Without meditation, there is no possibility to have a state of evenness in the mind. We can reach to some extent by readings, by living a moral life, a guilt-free life. We can maintain peace of mind to some extent. But whenever condition arise, that mind loses its tranquility, because mind has not developed thoroughly in order to remain equanimous, in order to remain totally at peace, which can be developed, cultivated through the practice of meditation. So he says, equanimity is cultivated through vipassana meditation practice. Remember I said 2 levels of meditation. First, calmness meditation, then insight meditation. So vipassana means insight meditation. What does insight or vipassana mean? It simply means to see the reality as it is. This reality is common to one and all. It cannot be a reality to only particular group or particular place. This reality is common to everybody. And what is the reality? Anicca, impermanent. Remember I said this earlier? This reality of impermanency is common to one and all, whether we are called Asian or American, right? It does not differentiate or discriminate color, creed, or gender, or living things or non-living things. This is the reality to everybody and everything. And since it is impermanent, since everything is impermanent, the second reality is called dukkha, unsatisfactory. There is unsatisfactory nature that we experience. Despite of having everything we wished, still there's some feeling of lackness, no? Something missing in life. Have experienced. You have everything you want, and still there's some feeling that something is missing. It's because of this nature, unsatisfactory nature, because our mind cannot be satiated fully. It's because of this changing nature. Right? Even this happy moment can turn into unhappiness because it's changing. And so, the third characteristic or third reality is anatta. So, there's nothing that can be called I, me, and mine, because everything is in flux of change. The I, when we were young, is different than the I now. Mine, when we were young, is different than mine now. So, in this particular teaching says, when a practitioner, meditation practitioner, has discerned formations by attributing the three characteristics, non-self, impermanence, and suffering, to them, and seeing them as empty in this way, he or she abandons both terror and delight and becomes indifferent to them and neutral. The practitioner neither takes them as I nor as mine, and is like a person who has divorced a spouse, and in so doing become unaffected by the doings of the ex-spouse. Hopefully that clarifies. So, I gave you a list of words: gain, loss, honor, dishonor, praise, blame, happiness, and pain. What are these?
Opposites.
Ups and downs of our life. Ups and downs. Worldly conditions that we, each and everyone, face in life, in daily basis. One day we are praised, honored, right? Next day we are blamed, dishonored. One day we gain what we like, next day we lose. One moment we are very happy, right? Delighted. And next moment we are very sad, depressed. Why? Why we have these ups and downs? Very clear. Because we lack equanimity, we lack wisdom, we lack understanding of the reality that we just mentioned: impermanent nature, unsatisfactory nature, non-self nature. Because we try to seek permanency in our experiences, try to try to forget that it can change right away, that it will change. Okay? So, there are 4 positive conditions that we like, that we seek, that we want to pull towards ourselves. And there are 4 conditions that we don't like, we want to push away, reject. We like happiness, we like honor, we like fame, we like gain, and we are running to receive these. So we pull towards us. When we experience dishonor, unhappiness, blame, and defame, we hate that. So what are we doing is we are either fueling greed, wanting, likes, or either we are fueling anger, aversion. And they are called impurities of the mind. As long as they are dwelling in our mind, there cannot be equanimity. Equanimity is far away, because the nature of these impurities is such, it will agitate your mind. That's its function, that's its job. The job of greed, the job of anger is to agitate your mind, agitate you, not to keep you in tranquility. And that's why we try to uproot them slowly, not at once, slowly, gradually, by practicing generosity, giving something that you own, you give away. You start reducing the intensity of greed in possession, and you practice meditation, watching the breath, not allowing the mind to wander. So you let go of thoughts. That is part of what we call giving up. You give up multiplying the thoughts that comes in our head. We reduce this process, the process of jumping from one thought to another, so that we have less thoughts and more focus on the present activity that is happening. That's why we use the breath, so that we have less and less and less thoughts and more focus on the breath, more and more presence in this activity, simple activity of breathing in and out. So these conditions come in life as a pendulum. It swings, right? It swings from happiness to unhappiness, from honor to dishonor, from praise to blame, from fame to defame. Test your equanimity when you actually experience these worldly conditions in your life. Take a moment, take a pause, and reflect. How did I react? How did I respond to this experience of worldly conditions? And we clearly see the difference between enlightened person and us. He said, the Buddha said, Sukhena putta atava dukhena na uchavachang pandita dasayanti. It means, when one is affected by happiness or unhappiness, the wise does not show neither elation nor depression. When you are unhappy, what happens? We get elated, floating in air. When we experience unhappiness, we are on the ground, very depressed, feeling very down. Sometimes we call it what we call stress, right? Anxiety. We have different words to denote our experience. But enlightened person, the wise person, does not show that, because they have mastered what? They have mastered the practice of giving up. They have this wisdom that nothing is permanent. Even this experience will pass away. Honor, dishonor, happiness, unhappiness, gain, loss, fame and defame, they all pass away. The discomfort that you're experiencing right now, sitting on the chair, also pass away. But our mind is conditioned by these impurities like greed, anger, and delusion. And because of these conditions, we have no clear vision that this will pass away. We think the pain is permanent. We think happiness is permanent. And that's why when happiness turns to unhappiness, we feel stress. But wise person have developed one's mind that they do not, of course they experience these ups and downs, but their mind is unaffected by these ups and downs. They have pains. Don't misunderstand that they don't feel pain. They feel pain, but they don't react to the pain. They know this pain is simply a pain. It is not permanent, it is unsatisfactory, and it's not I. It's not mine. It's not myself. And they know this. And because of this knowing, they can go through, they can be through this process of change. And we cannot wait. We move. Once we experience pain, discomfort, we want to move in search of a bit of comfort. So we move a little bit and you feel good about it. You sit, but you don't realize that after a few moments, that same comfort turns into discomfort. We don't want to think about that. We only think about comfort. And that's the difference between us, the enlightened person. So, equanimity, when you have equanimous mind, you are also supporting other spiritual qualities like love that we discussed earlier, we practiced earlier, right? You radiate love to yourself, to your loved ones, friends, and the world. That practice gets enhanced, or it becomes easy to practice when you have this equanimity. Because equanimity also means what? Impartial observation. That means when you have equanimity, you have no discrimination. You don't have that biased nature in the mind. Okay? And so it also means you don't judge, you don't react. And when these impurities, greed, anger, and delusion are absent or dormant from your mind, loving kindness, compassion, empathy, all these wholesome qualities gets a chance to cultivate, develop. Because our impurities are so powerful that they don't let wholesome nature, to grow in your mind. It's like when we have full of weeds in our yard, lawn gets very hard to grow, right? So you use weed killers so that it helps the lawn gets to grow well. Just like that. You are uprooting weeds from your mind. With the practice of meditation, you're trying to remove weeds from your mind so that wholesome qualities can grow. And when we lack equanimity, our love becomes conditional, bias, right? We invite friends only if they invite you, right? You smile if only they smile you in return. I tell the young kids, you put likes into your friends' post, only they put likes into your post. That is biased love, conditional care. But when you have equanimity, you break that boundary. You still smile whether they smile you in return or not, because it becomes your nature. You invite friends to your house whether they invite you or not. Okay? So, this quality becomes at last an enlightenment factor. Equanimity becomes an enlightenment factor. So if you want to reach enlightenment, equanimity must be developed, must be cultivated to the fullest level so that it leads you to enlightenment. So, it says the function of equanimity is to see things impartially, as I said earlier. Its manifestation is the subsiding of attraction and repulsion. The perfection of equanimity should be considered in this way. When there is no equanimity, the offensive action performed by beings cause oscillation in the mind. And when the mind oscillates, it's impossible to practice the requisites of awakening. So there are 7 factors that one must develop in order to attain enlightenment. Mindfulness, that is the first and foremost. You develop mindfulness, which we did a little bit earlier. Mindfulness on breath, then mindfulness on feeling, which we didn't do it here today. Mindfulness of the mind, mindfulness of the Dhammas, the nature, mental objects. There are 4 bases for mindful practice. Mindfulness of the body. So breathing is mindfulness of the body. You observe the body, breath body, and the body, this physical body. Feeling what you feel in this body. Sensations, you become aware. Mind, the condition of your mind. Mind is not present, you know my mind is not present. When mind is full of anger, you know my mind is governed by anger in this moment. So you develop mindfulness of the mind. So first one is mindfulness. Then second one is investigation of Dhamma. You must have this nature of investigating your practice, investigating the teaching that you hear. So don't just nod your head once you listen to me. You investigate what I have said. How practical is it? How much I can apply this? Effort. The third one is effort. 4-fold effort. Pat, Connie, what are the 4-fold effort? Abandon unwholesome, prevent unwholesome, cultivate wholesome, and maintain wholesome. We call it 4-fold effort. Then joy. A joy that comes through the practice of meditation, not the joy that you experience. It's more advanced than the joy we experience when we meet our loved ones, when we get things that we like. Then happiness, spiritual happiness, a happiness born out of letting go, not gaining, but letting go. Then concentration. So concentration is what we are doing, focusing the mind, developing the mind into the level of tranquility, concentration. Concentration is also 4-fold. Remember I told you, first, second, third, fourth jhana, there are 4-fold concentration. And on the 4th one, you have equanimity. The last one is equanimity. So among the 7, the last one is equanimity. You need equanimity in order to not just develop the positive qualities in life, but also to become enlightened. Equanimity is a must developed quality. So now let's come into practice. How do we develop this? How do we enhance this nature? It becomes a factor. If you want to make this quality an enlightenment factor, you have to start. First, develop an attitude. Attitude of equanimity. How do we develop that? We understand that we experience ups and downs in life according to our karma. Not just we, everybody in the world experience ups and downs in life according to their karma. So sometimes we go through happiness, sometimes we go through unhappiness. And so instead of why these things happens to me, I'm a good person, and why does it happen to me? Instead of thinking in that way, you develop an attitude to accept the reality of your life, the inevitabilities of your life, because everybody faces it, and I am no different than others. So I go through this, so my loved ones, so the beings of this world. So instead of why me, you learn to accept that reality in life. Next, as we said, meditate upon equanimity. Meditate, develop through the practice of meditation. Try to achieve some state of balanced mind. Not trying to, so for example, after 10 minutes of sitting, you get some pain, discomfort. You try to experience it without getting disturbed by that experience. You try to make peace with that experience of pain, sitting continuously, and see how long this experience lasts. So sometimes people use equanimity and patience interchangeably, because if you have patience, you can maintain it. Right? So I would like to end with this Buddha's quote, an instruction to his son Rahula. Do you know Buddha had a son? When he was a prince, he had a son. Before he left the palace life, a household life, he was a father. He left on the day he became a father. So he called his son, Rahula, develop meditation that is like the earth. For then agreeable and disagreeable sensory impression will not take charge of your mind. Just as when people throw what is clean and unclean on earth, feces, urine, saliva, pus, or blood, the earth is not horrified, not humiliated, nor disgusted by it. In the same way, agreeable and disagreeable sensory impressions will not take charge of your mind when you develop meditation like the earth. So he was instructing his son to develop equanimity in this way. Develop your mind like this earth. This earth does not say anything in return when you throw trash. Okay?